Hi, everybody. Hello, welcome to this webinar about player recruitment. We should all be set up now. It's 5 p.m., so I'll get things going. I'll start with my camera just to say hi, and then we'll move into the presentation that I've prepared for you today. Um, yeah, so first thing, really, I think I can introduce myself while I'm on camera. So my name is Elie Mouraud. I am a senior project manager at PlaytestCloud. PlaytestCloud, in short, is a Berlin-based company specialized in remote um, playtesting solution for mobile games. This is relevant for today because we manage a database of players and we screen or recruit players pretty much every single day of the week. I've been working for PlaytestCloud for a little over 4 years now, and I've done my fair share of screener myself. Um, so that's really it for my short introduction. I'll start by sharing my screen and we'll hop into the presentation. So you'll see the presentation is punctuated with lots of very, very cute character, part of the identity of PlaytestCloud. So today we'll be talking about player recruitment, how to invite, recruit, and make sure that the players you are going to play test or run a research study with are players you can rely on, are the players you want, the players that might be playing your game after. So we'll just dig into an infamous part of recruiting players, the survey design. So in short, a survey is it's an online questionnaire or survey, screener for short, that you will send to respondent and to screen them in or out of your study. So you just want to ask them a bunch of questions to assess if they are if they qualify for your research study. So that's what we are going to talk about today. It's a little nerdy, but very interesting. And I've been doing this for a little while now, so I'm always a little excited when we talk about player games and how to get the players you can rely on for your study. I'll talk a little bit about PlaytestCloud and how it matters because it's the context is very important here. It to tell you how legitimate I am to talk to you about player recruitment today, and also to give you insights on how recruitment is done on PlaytestCloud. So I'll talk a little bit about our workflow. Um, as I said in the intro, we are specializing in remote testing. The bread and butter, as we say, are playtest. And playtest is a session where a player will play a game. The video of the screen is recorded, as well as the sound of the voice of the player and some touch indicator on screen. And this is a video pretty much that we call a playtest. Interviews are very important and very good ways of conducting remote or not user research. It's something we've seen increasing a lot since 2020, and well, obviously the health situation that touched everyone. People were inside, but game makers still needed the opportunity to talk to players. So remote interviews have been increasing a lot, and I'm super grateful to be part of PlaytestCloud and supporting this method of connecting players and video game makers, because that's really what it's all about. And surveys as well. Surveys are a more quantitative data that you can get from. But these three channels, these three product or the three supports are all have in common that you need sometimes to recruit players for these specific sessions. I'm also very grateful that at PlaytestCloud we do have a fairly large internal player base or playtester base with over 1 million registered players. Most of our players are from the United States, Canada, and the UK, but we've recently also opened up to other countries. We call it the global player panel, and yeah, it just opens up more players, to screen in. For the screeners themselves, so remember they are like online questionnaire. We use in-house tooling for that. So we have ways to mobilize, contact this million plus registered players using internal tools. But what I'm going to talk about today is very applicable for, doesn't really matter how, yeah, which medium you'll use to conduct your screener. Really what matters is the method behind. And at PlaytestCloud, we do, yeah, we're proud to have a fairly short turnaround whenever we start recruiting, whenever we start like inviting players to a screener. It usually takes us 24 hours to get feasibility results or to get the responses we need for a project. So this is due to the fact that we are professional and expert in the field. We have a large database of players, and all that combined really makes the short turnaround possible. And we do run multiple projects as well. So I think, yeah, roughly 5 to 10 projects per week are being handled by the project management team that I'm part of, that necessitate a type of screening to catch players with a specific level of targeting. So we do a lot of screening. We do it fast, and I personally have been doing it for over 4 years. So that's why I believe that I am legitimate to talk to you about screening today. Few benefits really if you are organized and if you are doing screening regularly and you are structured. This will have direct benefits to your organization. I'm thinking time and money because that's often the essence in the industry. Having a process, having a database of templates of screening questions, screeners that you can send and tweak and resend will save you time, of course, gray hair for myself, and also money. Ultimately, you'll be able to do more playtest or more usability test because you'll have the ability to do it quickly and do it more often because you've developed a process that is reusable. And I think, yeah, that's one of the, not clickbait, but argument that I used in the title of this talk is the quality. I think it's very crucial or important that you get results you can rely on, players in this case, that you can rely on, so your research study is insightful for your organization and game ultimately. So quality, money, and time, these are the direct benefits you'll get if you structure and put on the work for screening your players. Before you get starting in actually designing a screener and writing questions and getting ready to invite the players, there are two main steps that I can think of that you will need to do before writing the screening. And the first one is to define your research goals. So the game user research field has been maturing over the past few years, and structured methodology I've erased really. I am not super qualified to talk about it. I am not a game user research, but at PlaytestCloud we do have a talented in-house game user researcher, Gareth Lloyd, who wrote very good documentation on the really on everything. It's a 360 approach to game user research, and they published the mobile playtesting playbook. This is a goldmine of information, and I could find a few types of methodology you can apply to get insights. The first one would be a usability test, an appreciation test, where you want to know if the players like or dislike the game. Usability being how the players are interacting with your game in this case, balance testing, and purely discovery. So these four method of playtesting or testing, conducting your research, often will have a specific relationship towards the players you want to invite, and therefore the type of screening you want to do. I'm thinking, usability tests where you want to know how players react to your game. You might don't need to have a very, very deep level of targeting, as opposed to appreciation, where you might be, willing to have players who play your game or competitor games, just react and share their experience with your game as well. So all in all, I highly recommend that you have a look at the mobile playtesting playbook. This is going to be linked at the end of this talk. I'll move on really to my area of expertise with the second point, which is important before you start screening, is to know the players. Know the players, or know your players, I guess, is very crucial as well. There are few ways of like detailing the profile of a player. So you might be interested in collecting some what do we call demographic information, age, gender, where the player is living, are information that might be useful for your study. But not only, you also have what we call experience type of information from players. I'm thinking about, is a player experienced with a specific game? Are they often playing a type of game genre? This is also a type of information that is important for you to collect before you start your screening. And the last one I think is also very important. It's the level of affinity or frequency of usage towards a game. So typically a casual gamer who hops on short sessions every now and days, or a more hardcore player who spends hours sitting on a computer or console, seeing mobile gaming or gaming as a hobby. This is something you want to also assess before you start screening, because, well, spoiler alert, we'll be asking questions about demographic, experience, and affinity frequency as well. I guess once you have a detailed research goal in mind, and you know who the players of interest are for this specific playtest or for this specific study, then you can get started on the design of your screener. The design of your screener is like this character. It's you need to be zen to start it, because it's often could be intimidating. I think it's like starting any kind of structured tasks. The brain will just put a stop at the very beginning of the project or the process. There are ways to structure it. There are hacks and tips that I will be sharing today with you. So if you're not, I will help you tackle the first and the second part of the design. First one being writing the screener questions. So writing the screener questions is, we're lucky enough to live in a world where cross-discipline, like game user research, but also user research and other fields, have structured methodology that we can use, and that we can benefit from getting the best practices from another field. Another field is also something you can do with gaming and for your playtest. So I'll get into the main part of this talk, really is writing questions. So that's a little light bulb on the top right corner of the screen, shows that this is the tip section. So I'm just going to share with you a bunch of tips of things that I wish I knew in the beginning, and that I'm always trying to pay attention to whenever I start screening. The first one would be to include a free text question in your screener. So these open-ended questions will help you assess articulation of your players. By articulation, I mean that, let's take an example here. We often start our screener with this very sentence or this very question. asking them, the players or the respondent, when was the last time they played a game on mobile and which one was it. Two elements to one question, the time and the game. And you will see a wide variety of answers from someone who just focuses on PUBG, has forgotten the first part of the question, or someone would be saying, hey, I played Overwatch 2 with my brother, and start really just telling you a little bit of a story here. It is good if you are, let's say, conducting an interview. It's always nice with two similar profiles coming from a survey if you can go with the respondent that is articulated, knows how to read a sentence and answer a sentence, and just phrase things. This might be useful for your qualitative interview, for example. Include a free text question is definitely best practice. Using plain language is also important. We work in gaming, and there are not only gaming, but there are a lot of acronyms and things that are obscure to the non-professional, or non-gamer as well. So I put you an example of what I would subjectively consider as a bad question, and a good one that I designed. So it's very subjective. Sorry about that, but let's have a look at this one. The bad one would be on screen as opposed to the good one. So the aim is the same. Let's say it's to see if someone is stating that they play mobile games. In the bad one, we just drop mobile, FPS. This is, to me as a gamer, it's something I know and I can picture these words, but it's always good practice to describe all the jargon or all the acronyms that you're using. Doesn't matter, you don't know who you're talking to, so you better give all the information to help anyone answer the survey as quickly and as clearly as they can. Rephrasing, restating, giving example here. So we translate mobile into multiplayer online battle arena, and we give some example of games that are belonging to this genre, just to help like respondents, select the correct. There's no correct, not incorrect, but it's always good practices to translate the acronyms and also details with examples if you can. Another tips would be to favor multiple choice questions. So these questions are great, and they are opposed to single choice questions, or yes/no questions, we call them. So let's have a look at two fairly similar ones. So in both example, we want to know if someone states that they play mobile shooter games. You'd be tempted to ask the question, hey, do you play mobile shooter games on mobile? Yes, no. This is good, but definitely can be improved. A multiple choice questions like this one, for example, of course, like details the type of game, so helps the respondent kind of like clearly understand the question. And you want to be giving them, in this case, catch-all options. So options like not at all. If they don't play, they need to let you know that they don't play. So always make sure to include these kind of options as well. And then we often use I used to play mobile shooter. Some players play certain type of games at some point of their life and then move on. And as players, we evolve, of course. So it's always important, I think, for us to, catch players who have churned from a genre or have churned from a game. So in my opinion, it's good practice to ask this one. And then the multiple choice questions here offer us the opportunity to ask about frequency of usage as well. In one question, we are pretty much tackling two aspects of a person that we'd like to understand or discover. In this case, do they play mobile shooter? If they say not at all, or if they say I used to, then let's consider as no. And the three other options are considered as yes, then you can detail a little bit and see, if they play sometimes regularly. Here we often and always actually translate these pretty generic words like sometimes, regularly, with quantifiable data. In this case, we use the number of days a week someone plays, as opposed to the number of hours. It's pretty much a standard in the industry to quantify an frequency of play with number of hours played. But with mobile, it's very hard. A game engine like a platform like Steam will tell you how many hours you played on a specific game. Mobile games don't do that, so it's very hard for us specialized in mobile gaming to get truthful data from that. And also, mobile gaming in particular are very good at the good ones are very good at making us lose track of time. So we often say how many days, how many, let's say, evening or days have you logged onto your specific games. It's more to us, more close to the actual reality. So these are multiple choices, and these are great. Another tip, it's going to be a short one, this one. Overlapping values. Sometimes we are not paying attention to values. These are very similar questions and options as well. But obviously, the one on the left has overlapping values. So 5 is present in option 2 and 3, and 20 in 3 and 4. And this doesn't seem that much of a big deal now, but if you are analyzing lots of data, it will become very, very important. Things like ages as well also would make things very very awkward if you don't have if you have overlapping values and you can really rely on the answers provided by the respondents. Another tip would be to use knowledge-based questions, or basis questions in this case. It's a D. These are very great to validate the actual statement from a player. So you'd use them. Let's look at the example. Let's say we find someone who states that they play life after the game. Very good game, by the way. And we want to make sure that, or at least we want to know if this player is actually legit or not. So we'd ask them. It could be like an open-ended question or a multi-choice like this one. Very in-game knowledge. So you need to spend a little bit of time on Twitch, YouTube, fandom. There are ways linked at the very end of this presentation where you can get quick game knowledge from any type of game, really. In this case, new dollar is the currency used in life after. So we pretty much exclude everyone who select one of the one that they, just to be frank, they all belong to video games, but it's just a way for good practices to validate some statement from the players. Moving on to the next section of writing questions. So these are not tips, but these are example of type of question that we use at PlaytestCloud, and they are very much like often requested. So we're talking about the usage, for example, how to assess if someone is a mobile player. So we often ask this question: what's your favorite way to play games? Players can select one of these. Of course, those who select the phone or mobile would be screened in. Another type of question that we often ask is about the experience. So we've seen it with an example before, but let's take the example of the game Gardenscape. With show players, like ask the players this question and show them a bunch of options like these. None of the above. The catch-all type is always important. Obviously, the game Gardenscape is in the mix. You might be interested in having similar games, so there is nothing that really just like stand out. So these are hybrid puzzle games, pretty much. So here you select Gardenscapes, you would be screened in, and if you select Resultscapes, it's a fake game. It doesn't exist. You can look for it on the stores. It's a good way using the multiple choice question to catch careless respondent or untruthful respondent. Drop a fake game in pretty much all of your type of questions like this, and you'll be able to exclude these players who might want to select everything to be invited, or would just are here for the cookie, not to be truthful. And the game Animal Crossing here it's a real game, and it's also a very good game, but it's not a mobile game. So the question is definitely targeted at mobile. So it also gives you some. It's a bit of validation as well, and see if the players are articulated, if they can, answer a simple question using what they have. You don't need to exclude all the players who select Animal Crossing, but it gives you information. We'll stay with Gardenscapes, of course. If you want to have an idea of affinity, how much a Gardenscape player, how much of a player the Gardenscapes players you've screened in are, you'd ask them this question. Again, let's say you want to invite someone who is like fairly experienced with something. You can invite all of the players who selected the last two options and screen out the others. Another way to validate, we talked about it before, but I think it's good to talk about it twice. For this one, for example, we'd ask a question like that. The butler actually is part of garden and homescapes, but it's 2022. We all know by now that Austin is the butler in these games. It gives you an extra layer of validation for that. We're now moving on to the second part of the screener design. So once you have your questions, you want to be ordering them. So it's all about structuring. You don't want to be asking questions at random, because they have to be in a certain order. They need to follow a funnel structure. You need to ask broad question and go more specific until you have a player that qualifies. You want to ask the validation question in the very beginning of your screener. This would just jeopardize the whole logic behind. So structure is key here, and here's how you can do it. You can start with asking demographics informations. Great thing at PlaytestCloud, we do store and collect and share this data from our backend, so we don't need to ask these questions. So we always focus on the next steps, which are, as we've seen, level of experience. Now that you know who your players are on the demographic side of things, you can assess their experience towards, let's say, a given game. These are with the questions we've seen. You can then ask questions regarding the affinity, how much do you play the game? You want to validate this statement and then move on to the availability. These questions are very much related to the type of playtest or study you want to run, but yeah, ask them questions about the time, the date. Are they willing to be talking in an interview or things like this? That's where you want to ask them that. And once you have the screening questions done, the structure laid out, you're pretty much good to go. I have pulled a few takeaways for you, structured in do's and don'ts. In the do's, ideally you want to limit the survey to 10 questions. You want it to be short and sweet. You don't want to be causing fatigue for the players and jeopardize the quality of the results you will get. Structuring the screener is in a funnel with the structure we've just seen before is a must. Writing simple, but writing clearly is also a must. The free text question is very useful. You validate, you check the articulation of the players. Multiple choice questions are great. I wrote it down because I think they really are. And knowledge-based questions, I think that's where you'll get the most fun. And I know you might doubt, but you will get some fun at checking knowledge-based questions on specific games, even and especially for the games that you don't play, if you get to do that, it's very nice. And what you don't want to do is reveal what you're trying to discover. You don't want to start the invitation on, hey, I'm looking for a Gardenscape players. Could you please take this survey for us? This would ruin the whole thing. Using the leading questions is also not something you want to do. Leading question would be, have you seen the broken glass on the floor? Yes, no. And then a non-leading question would be, when you enter the room, what have you seen? You don't want to imply that there was broken glass on the room when someone entered. And also, you might want to be willing to, what we say, relax your target audience and just have a open state of mind. If someone is 18 years old and your TA is starting at 19, but they tick all the other boxes, you might want to be interested in talking to them and having them playtest your game. I've prepped a bunch of documents and resources for you. Everything is linked here, and I'll be sharing the resources with you later on the platform on PlaytestCloud. And I think I am ready. A little bit of overtime, but we're ready for the questions. I'm just going to have a look at Jake from marketing and see if we have any questions in the chat. And I don't see any at the moment. I think it's good then if there are no questions. One follow-up point, we are going to pretty much detail everything that was said here and in a blog post article that will be available on our website. So that will be a great resource for you. You'll be able to have a look at the playbook as well, made by Garrett Lloyd, game user researcher at PlaytestCloud. Great read if you're interested in the topic of game user research. And yeah, we are available at PlaytestCloud if you want to chat about designing screener to invite players you can rely on. That's it for me. Thanks a lot for your attention and for showing up today.